it going? Tim Spann here, Principal Developer Advocate, covering some interesting topics in generative AI, real-time streaming, vector databases, unstructured data, lots of cool stuff. My talk is Enriching Generative AI as Events in Real-Time Streaming Pipelines, because I couldn't fit any more words in the title, and I haven't thought of something cool, catchy way to put all that into something a little simpler. So we'll give that a try through the talk to make this as straightforward as possible. If you're trying to contact me, want to know more about this interesting things we're doing with generative AI, reach out to me, GitHub, Medium, DZone, lots of places. You'll find me if you look. I do a weekly newsletter covering a ton of different projects, open source for data, unstructured data, vectors, streaming, real-time, IoT, Python, Java, JavaScript, lots of cool stuff. Check it out. You don't have to subscribe. You can just check episodes as they show up in the GitHub, and we'll be adding more multimedia and multimodal content real soon. So check that out. So let's get into it. We're going to build some streaming pipelines. Hopefully everything's going to be going fast. As you might imagine, if you haven't been around the last couple of years, there's a lot of different types of data. Like a lot. Like you wouldn't expect it. I mean, because you have the data we've been used to for a while, which is huge enough. I mean, the structured data coming out of databases and other things is big. But then when you start adding things like text and images, video, logs, all kinds of really cool advanced 3D models, chemical structures, logs, emails, social media data, all of a sudden there's a lot of data. And that's just growing. And now with the explosion of things like ChatGPT, now there's some serious use cases for this data. And now it can all come together. I can search my text data using an image and search my videos and all this together, the structured, unstructured, and, make sense of all the data. This is, there's going to be some really cool stuff coming out. Right now, there's stuff everywhere, and it's not easy to manage this, especially when, you may have some cats distracting you, whether it's local in containers or Docker, you're running Amazon, you're trying to do video analytics, you're not sure which cloud you're running on, got to feed stuff to Slack, grab stuff from Slack. There's a lot going on. Fortunately, there's some tools out there in the open source to make this a little easier. Fortunately, you don't have to choose between easy and open source anymore. The power of some open source projects out there is making this a lot easier. So you don't have to worry about it. And not just open source, but open source with a powerful community where a lot of people working together, a lot of people using the same code, which is great. And big shout out to the Linux Foundation for AI and Data. That's really making this possible, especially within the hybrid cloud environments that we're seeing with all the different Kubernetes installs and big environments. I mean, you could start off with a couple of nodes, and before you know it, you've got, billions of vectors out there, tons of data. But what's nice, it's easy to get started. I could just work in a notebook. I'll show you that. Reuse code. Use it fast. Integrate with all the cool tools you want to use out there, where it's something like OpenAI, LangChain, Llama Index, ton of cool stuff out there. And you could do some really advanced stuff out there. Everyone starts off with maybe a little RAG, maybe just some text in there, which is a really good use case. Maybe just all the documents that you need to search. I do that for me, all my articles and different contents. You could find my stuff really fast, ask it questions, maybe get better answers than I'd give you. Depends what day it is. Lots of other things, like we're not going to go into things, the difference between really dense and sparse embeddings, filtering. There's so many features coming, whether you're going to just run on your laptop, run in the big cloud somewhere, use all the big name tools, or just use a couple open source. It's all out there. Cool stuff going on. and a ton of different use cases supported. Again, we won't go into that, but just wanted to mention this quick off. Yeah, a ton of different index types. If you use some of the entry-level vector systems, you'll be like, oh, we got an index. And one index is great until you start looking at different types of data, different use cases, how you're going to use that data, how you're going to search it. There's a lot of things to think of when you start going into production and you start adding a ton of different data sources. Coming from the world of traditional big data, it took us a long time to be able to figure out how am I going to access the data, what type of data it is, what are the best ways to index, search, and find data wherever it is. And that's certainly evolving in the unstructured realm as well. But being able to support all the different types of searches you might want to do, not just the top K ones, not just grouping or filtering, lots of different things you could do and combine them. Being able to have multi-tenancy through all these collections and partitions, really important once you start moving into production, whether that's productions on-premise, any of the clouds, wherever you need to run. You're going to need that. Some data just can't live with others, maybe for performance, maybe for legal reasons. Maybe they just shouldn't cross the barrier there. Lots of different compute types, and we'll see these expand as more types of GPUs, more types of advanced compute come out there. There's already a ton, and fortunately, the open source tools there are taking advantage of that, which is important. Now, if you remember some of the architectures I've walked through in the past, it's going to look familiar. The way milvus works is really similar to some other advanced systems out there, because there's really not that many ways to write these that it's going to work and scale out for all the different layers, because you got to scale out compute separate from storage. If you were around when we did some of the Pulsar talks, it's going to sound pretty familiar. You got workers that are handling querying data, indexing your data. What's nice, storing things out to an object store. Even if you're in a small use case, you could use Minio. That works pretty awesome. Give people access to your data. We got etcd in there again, part of cloud native system. Makes sense to use that for your metadata, so you could scale out really easily. We're using Kafka or Pulsar to distribute messages between all these different systems. Makes a lot of sense. It's the type of apps we've been building anyway, so it makes sense that an advanced system would use that. We'll go through some of these use cases really fast, but there's a couple of them you don't think of right away. Certainly the augmented retrieval. I mean, we all have to do that now with text chat and blogs and stuff. But things like molecular similarity search. I was talking to a guy a couple days ago, and he was super excited about this because they're trying to find some uses for some of the materials they have, and that stuff works out really well. And that's really hard to do in most systems there. But we'll dive into that in the future talks. Just a couple quick ones, show you some cats. Scalability, different types of indexing, support for all the major languages for clients. It's all out there. One thing that we've been doing is real-time data pipelines, because we've seen that certainly some data is going to be loaded batch like it was before, especially getting all your existing content and documents and websites, get them that first time loaded. That's going to be a batch. Should be a batch. Should be done pretty carefully. Make sure you get everything. Double check it. Certainly that can be done with the same tools, but you got to watch that first round. But after that, new document comes in, something comes out of Medium, something comes out of a Slack channel. I need to do that right away. I want to be able to get this data, whether it's to get it into a vector store like milvus so I can have that available to build up a prompt, or I'm enriching it, transforming it, or that's how I'm getting in a request to look at the data. I mean, we also have to integrate with whoever needs to ask questions of the AI, or even just do a search of those vectors. Very often, that's my final answer in there. I don't have to go any deeper. I want something like, well, how do I, build this? How do I build my first milvus app? Well, I don't need artificial intelligence to do that. There are a number of great articles that'll come up right away, so you don't have to do that. But yeah, like I said, building up the prompts, getting the proper context, so when we do need to write a question, we write it correctly, but also then connecting with things like GPT Cache, because sometimes that question's been answered already. Why spend the money or the time calling out to something like ChatGPT or even one of the free models if I don't have to? Let's save energy, let's save money, time, network bandwidth. Don't call out if you don't need to. If it's already been done, let's make it smart. Let's work with whatever we need to work with quickly. And we can work with unstructured data with things like nifi or with TOWIE. There's a ton of different things out there to do it. But the days of just looking at CSVs and JSON, protobuf, Parquet, Avro, that sort of data is over. You're going to be looking at zip files. You'll be looking at every type of image, every type of document. You know, some of them human readable, some of them not, some of them binary. You'll be looking at videos, maybe live streams, sound. I mean, being able to query your database with audio is pretty awesome. Being able to have those advanced UIs that you only thought of as, you know, maybe something Apple can do with a phone. But now I can have that in my basic applications where I just talk to you and you give me the results. I send in an image and you give me back a document. I mean, there's so many options now. We even just touched on them. It's pretty awesome. But we need to be able to work with all these different unstructured data types. And there's going to be more. I mean, there's probably going to be some new optimized ones. I'm sure Gen AI is going to create some awesome new format that combines multimedia in a very rich, easy to search, and compressed format. Waiting for that. If you haven't seen nifi 2.0, we just got the M3 release, and this is adding some serious features that make it a very nice open source tool to be able to do this open source streaming part of the house, where I'm getting data regardless of if it's structured, unstructured, semi-structured, and get it to who needs it at any speed as quickly as possible. Often Kafka or Pulsar in there. Drop that off to my vector store and we're off and running. What's nice is being able to leverage Python in additional places. nifi now makes Python a first-class citizen, so you can write full libraries in Python and make them available for your entire nifi cluster, which is awesome. So as long as you have Python 3.10 or greater. I mean, if you're not running Python 3.10 or newer, you should look at your infrastructure because there's, you know, security issues out there. Upgrade to the latest or near latest. I mean, trying to get all these libraries working sometimes is fun. But fortunately, with Kubernetes and with other Python options, you can control some of that. But I wrote one for taking an address and turn it into latitude and longitude. I needed this because I wanted to do something like have someone ask me a question, and before I sent it to Gen AI, I wanted to see, is this something geo-important? Again, those crossing of the data types. Geo-data is structured data, but I mean, it's real world and it has implications with a lot of things. So we need to get this part right. So I have a library that uses pretty awesome libraries out there, especially one from OpenStreetMaps that does a pretty good job in getting you to the right place. So that's pretty good. I'm going to show you a couple of different demos. I don't want to show you too many slides. You'll get these slides going down. But what I have is my medium. I have nifi read that in. And it's going to read and write back to Slack. And we'll show you some other interactions we could do with Slack. Write some stuff to Kafka, and Flink can do some analytics. And write everything that needs to be in milvus there. So I could do RAG later. I could do a lot of things, especially when people ask me questions about my articles. Hey, let's have a prompt-enhanced Gen AI do that for me. And then I'll show you a quick little one for images using the TOWIE library, which is pretty simple. I mean, the more you look into Python, the more you're like, where were you when I was doing all that Java? I mean, I still like Java, but some of these Python libraries are amazing. So we're going to show you a little bit, just a quick one on getting working with image data in a database like it's nothing. Pretty cool. We won't touch on RAG today. You've seen that before. And I'll leave you some context stuff so you can start doing some cool stuff once we get into some demos. Hopefully I haven't spent so much time that everything in the world timed out. You know, I'm trying to run this as close to live so you're there. Like I'm at the conference. Hopefully I see you at the next one. So I have a Medium and I have some data there. And very fortunately, they'll give you an RSS feed of your latest couple of articles, which would be awesome if I didn't have so many articles. So I also download my old articles and have nifi load them as well. But for most use cases, just the last couple articles. Because once I have this running, like everything, get that batch processed however it takes, get that into your vector store, and then, you know, from current data as it's changing, grab it. So we're just going to grab some data from there, which is surprisingly easy. Now, we are in nifi. This you could download, run on your own, whether it's in Docker, Kubernetes, or just in on a JVM on your laptop. Pretty simple. So I have some code here that is just going to grab my feed from Medium. Now we could also do this with Python. And I'm looking at rewriting this in Python and see what the difference is with the amount of code. So you can see here it's Atom format RSS, which is basically a type of XML. Again, another format that won't die. Every new format, we get 3 old ones that never die as well. But here we grab some fields here. So we've got this data. We're going to grab it. I grab that here in nifi. And then I have something that converts that RSS data and send that into JSON, a little easier to work with. Then I split it on the channel items. And we can look at the data provenance here and see that that happens. We got 10 articles it gives you at a time. I grab some fields I like here, the most important ones. And then I'm just going to send that along here to build up a new JSON file. And if I look at this, I've got 10 results here that I just ran. And I could take a look at the data. I switch that over into a format to be parsed because it's HTML. And then from there, parse it out into small chunks. And I've got my small chunks here. Optimizing those chunks is always a fun exercise, and there's definitely a lot of different ways to do that. I could see this is part of my article around the Irish transit system, which is pretty cool. Love Ireland. Nice place to go to. Love castles. So what I have here is I'm going to send that record into milvus. And what's nice with milvus is there's an awesome open source product called Atu. And this lets you query all your data, see what's going on. I could see here that I've loaded some articles. I could see some other things I have here. There's also security and all that kind of stuff. But the main thing is we see we got another record come in. And I'm extracting the text that came out. And I'm just going to push that to Kafka so that I can distribute that. Also, if there's anyone who needs to know that I published a new article, I can have a Kafka consumer somewhere that could send out a Slack, a Discord, an email, a fax. I mean, whatever weird thing you want to send. Also, I'm sending out a Slack. I'll probably send out a Discord. Maybe I'll send one to the Milvus Discord if it's an article about Milvus. I'd probably send that to Gen AI to tell me where should I publish this and use their choice. Well, we'll see where they tell me to send my articles. Maybe they tell me to throw them away. Okay, we could see here that I got a new Slack message. And this is the article. Not well formatted, but, it was pulled out of RSS. But it is the content of the article posted into my Slack channel for Milvus. And you can see it's got links and different stuff embedded in there from the article and some all the code in there, whatever was in that article, just as a way to distribute that. And again, we sent some of that content to Kafka, but that's pretty straightforward. And we'll just let all those run. I mean, it only does 10 at a time, but if you take a look, I may have more than 10 articles. So when I do the bulk one, I'll go back and do all of last year. Maybe just the most recent articles here. Probably don't need to see articles from multiple years ago, though there's a couple of cool ones in there, like how to automate all the transit systems in the world. No code. That's kind of cool, I guess, if you're into that. Okay, so it's running here. I've got a couple more milvus going. So we'll show you another part of this to this timeout. Now, the other thing I have running here is I've got a universal Slack listener. And this is tied to my Slack group here, which is open to all. And I've got the links out there if you want to join it. If you want to ask questions of my bots. If you want to ask questions of me, one of these is me. I don't know which one. I have like 3 me's on here. Some of them are bots, some of them are me. See if you can guess. Sometimes I forget which one's me. Whoever gives you the best answer, that's me. So we have one just came in, and it's getting processed, coming through the system. Now, some of them I throw away because some of them are the results of bots, like you saw here, or they're in the wrong channel, or it's just not relevant to anyone. Ooh, it would be nice to know the current stock price. Now, this is not taking any... That is not what I should have been copying. That is not taking any AI. I do send everything through a couple open source AIs, thanks to Hugging Face, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Like, what are they going to tell me about the current stock price? Now, there are plugins and things you could add to ChatGPT and other things, and depend on your pipeline, you can get that data. But just sending that raw to ChatGPT doesn't make a lot of sense. One thing I figured out is if I'm going to let this be open to everyone, I should check things out. Make sure that it's only on one channel. I don't want to look at every channel, especially I use a lot just for debugging. Make sure it's not one of my bots. I really try not to get one of my bots, but they do have a lot of users. And the other thing I figured out is to clean up my prompts. So I found a model on Hugging Face that works most of the time. I got to look and see if I can find a better model or maybe train it on my own stuff so it knows when sometimes it's not sure. Like the not safe ones, a lot of these not safe ones are safe. It picked a word, it didn't think it was, I thought maybe it was a curse or something was wrong with it. And usually there's nothing wrong with it. So I don't know. Or sometimes it takes text that's really bot text and it goes, oh, what? Clearly this isn't a human. So sometimes that's helpful. But other times it's not. So we have that coming out. We got the prompt filtered. Make sure it's asked the right question. And then I send it, which I think is kind of cool, is I send it to multiple models at once. If you saw my article, why not 4 models? I'm doing 4 models at once. I got Mixtral 8, Tiny Llama. The Tiny Llama's been having problems recently. Mistral 7? Is that 7? I know, the models change a lot. MS-Fi 3, which has been pretty good. And then I'm like, can I call even more models at once? That might be too much for my system, but I have one also that translates to Spanish. It's nice to have content in other languages. I should do French, German, Hindi. Give me some suggestions for other languages. There's a lot of models out there. I try H2O, Llama 3. So I've got a bunch of models running. And when they get the results back, if they're not total junk, I send them out to Slack. And then I've got a Slack receiver here taking anything I send in, and then I'm publishing it. Pretty straightforward, but gives you an idea here. Also, some error. I might be out of permissions for one of the stock systems. Yeah, I might have to change a token somewhere. But what it does is find out what company your stock is and then send it on its way. Let's see, maybe we can get weather. Did we get any results back? Oh, we got some stuff for, we got, like we mentioned, all those modeled 5.3. Give me nothing. Mistral 7. Told me who AMD was. I guess that's good. Metalama 3. And then there's the translation. What about the weather? What is the weather in... I'm going to Wildwood. It's a nice beach town here in New Jersey. We have beaches. And we're getting some results back really quick. So that's cool. Here's the weather from a weather forecast. This is probably the smartest one to look at. And this is showing me some of the weather from the Philadelphia area, which is somewhat close there. One of the stations there. And gives me what's the current weather. And I did some parsing to get, Latin long from a name, which everyone wants a Latin long. There's some paid services that don't, but pretty easy. Tells me what the weather is generally from some of the other models. Kind of cool way to do that, just to give you an idea. We can also do some other things in here. Like I can upload an image, and I often will have images of my cat. So obviously an image is not text. It's not a question. It can be a question if I have the right kind of vector store, and I can say, give me pictures similar to this. And that's certainly one of the demos we'll do in the future, because that's pretty cool. So yeah, that works slightly differently. I have some universal code over here. Gets that message in from Slack. Make sure that it's actually an image. Downloads it with the proper permissions. If it matches, sends it over to image processing, which something failed here. I might have forgotten to install one of the libraries. Should take a look at that. And otherwise, it's sending Slack reports if things make it through the system. Depend on, what that image looks like. Is there security issues, whatever. And then it just pops up in our reports here. Like here, we did a little bit of analytics on there. Purple beanbag chair with a cat on it in a colorful room. Oh, that's pretty accurate. And then if you see, we've had other reports where I'm doing some things with real-time traffic cameras. That's some future demos. That'll be the next one. So stay tuned with conference in 6 months. How to get started with milvus. Just to make it easier for you. Automate everything. Thank you for coming to my talk. Hopefully it wasn't too long. If you have questions, definitely reach out to me. I am always on LinkedIn and Twitter, Medium, GitHub, Discord, wherever cool data is, I'll be out there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.